As the old saying goes, there is nothing new under the sun. This means that the truth is singular, objective, and eternal. It was here before we arrived, and it will remain long after we're gone. This presentation has been made in hopes that you will arrive at multiple realizations on how to live your life with purpose and intent according to the Hermetic principles of natural law. The word principle comes from the Latin noun principia, which means first, foremost, and most necessary. As an aggregate society, we tend to put trivialities before principles. What will be presented here is not made up of any personal belief or opinion of my own creation, and what you choose to do with this information will become your responsibility just as it has become mine. Natural law is considered to be occult knowledge. It is often hidden by those in positions of power in order to create a power differential. Before I go on any further, I would like to explain what the word occult means and what the term natural law does not mean. Few words have gotten such a bad rap as occult. The word in and of itself does not mean evil, demons, black magic, or witchcraft. That's not to say that certain occult practices do not involve such things, but most people have a very Hollywood conception of what it is. Occult knowledge is neither good nor evil. It is simply knowledge. It is a matter of how we use it. A knife could be used to chop vegetables for a salad, or it could be used to slit someone's throat. It is the wielder of that knowledge that determines if it is to be used for good or evil. The word occult derives from the Latin adjective occultus, meaning hidden from sight, which comes from the Latin verb occultare, to hide, conceal, or to keep secret. Both in turn are derived from the Latin noun oculus, meaning eye. So the word occult simply means that which is hidden or that which is concealed from view. Natural law can be explained as the journey into the self and finding that which is hidden in one's own nature and then applying its principles in order to build a better mind and soul. It is about the actual awakening of the aspects of human consciousness and aligning them all in harmony with each other. They are the unseen laws that govern morality and behavioral consequence. Natural law has nothing to do with Darwin's theories regarding macrobiological evolution, survival of the fittest, or natural order ideologies. It has nothing to do with any behavioral aspect of the animal kingdom, or any creature with less cognitive capabilities than that of a human being. Nor does it have anything to do with any human-made laws, including common law or free man on the land law. Natural law applies to all beings with the capacity to know the difference between a right and wrong action, with a right action being defined as behaviors that do not cause harm to other sentient beings, and a wrong action being defined as behaviors that do cause harm to other sentient beings. The seed of life, also known as the seed of creation, is composed of 7 circles and an 8th circle which encapsulates them. They represent the guiding principles of natural law and of our reality. They are not man-made and they are eternal. Each principle carries a distinct truth and do not require our belief for it to be upheld. When we are aware of and live in alignment with natural law, there is balance and harmony both in our internal and external world. Conversely, when we do not, the manifested result is chaos and imbalance. Our reality is always being forged by our choices and actions. It is our responsibility to understand the power we have to create our own path. The physical, mental, and spiritual planes of existence are in constant influence of one another. In order to create a balanced life for ourselves, we must be aligned on all 3 planes. This will not only put ourselves in balance, but will also have a collective influence across the entire world. The more understanding we gain and apply, the more we can dispel the vibration of fear and transmute it into a higher vibration of true care, which will in turn transform the world in which we live. The principle of mentalism states that the all is mind. Everything that happens has to be a result of a mental state that preceded it. For anything that exists, thoughts had to form first. Thoughts lead to the manifestation of things and events. Therefore, we must be responsible for everything we create by being responsible for everything that we think. There is a saying, energy flows where attention goes. We must be conscious of what our mind entertains because it has the potential to become real. If you want to change reality, you yourself have to change the way you think, because the way you think is not conducive to the requirements for getting what you say you want. This is a bitter pill to swallow, but it is a liberating revelation when we acknowledge that every experience in our life has come to us through our own mental power, but that we also have the power and ability to change it.
You have to learn to select your thoughts the same way that you select your clothes every day. Now, that's a power that you can cultivate. If you want to come here and you want to control your life so bad, work on the mind. And that's the only thing you should be trying to control. Because if you can't master your thoughts, you're in trouble forever.
Most people spend their lives complaining about things they don't like.
Yes.
So you're adding power to it. You're giving it chi. We're supposed to focus on what it is that we're wanting to move towards instead of away from. You don't have to lie when something is bad. You know, if you have a cold and someone says, "Are you sick?" That doesn't mean say no. It means say, "I'm getting better minute by minute."
Oh, that's great.
The principle of correspondence states, as above, so below, as within, so without. We are truly connected to everything, and everything is connected to us. Our internal world affects our external world, and how we perceive the world is a reflection of how we see ourselves. The macrocosm of creation that we perceive to be so far outside of ourselves cannot be separated from the microcosm, or that universe that resides inside of ourselves at a subatomic level. The universe is self-similar, fractal, and holographic across all scales. If a holographic image were to be cut into 4 pieces, those images would not be a quarter of the full image, but would remain a full image of itself, only smaller. To know the workings of the individual will help lead us to an understanding of the macrocosmic laws. And conversely, to know the macrocosm or natural law will help us to understand the way consciousness functions in the individual. These two things cannot be separated from each other. As stated in the beginning, this is what occult knowledge is: the relationship between individual consciousness and natural law, the macrocosm and the microcosm, the inner and the outer. The principle of vibration states that everything is in constant motion. All things are made of energy, and energy never dies. This energy is in constant, ceaseless motion. Even things that appear to be stationary, at the subatomic level, you will still find movement. Nothing is actually solid at all, but moving and vibrating within its own unique energetic frequency. We as humans carry our own vibration, which either attracts us to or repels us from certain people and places in our lives. This goes beyond the 5 senses. How many times have you ever found yourself saying, "I get a bad vibe about that person, or place, or thing"?
Bob, I got a bad feeling on this one, all right? I got a bad feeling. I don't think I'm gonna make it out of here. You understand what I'm saying to you?
Just by looking at these images, you could feel the vibration of energy that they transmit. We can feel the vibration of energy when we are aware of ourselves and our surroundings. The difference of vibration on a beautiful day in nature and inside an office cubicle with fluorescent lighting is undeniable. We are always vibrating at different levels of frequencies. Whether we are vibrating on a higher positive frequency such as reason, love, peace, or enlightenment, or a negative lower frequency such as shame, pride, anger, or fear, our life experience will always follow suit. It's hard to deny the impact that the vibration of music has on us to feel the full spectrum of human emotion. This range could be anywhere from extreme happiness, euphoria, excitement, nostalgia, or deep sorrow. Vibration has the incredible ability to heal our bodies and minds at a cellular and spiritual level. There are many musical instruments and tools that could be used to treat and even heal many physical and psychosomatic conditions. Vibration has been known to change the molecular structure of water when emotions are conveyed by writing, silent thoughts, or by speech. Over half of the human adult body is water, so the influence that vibration has on our bodies and minds cannot be overstated.
Go ahead, Ray.
You! You worthless piece of slime! You ignorant, disgusting blob!
You're nothing but an unstable short-chain molecule!
You foul, obnoxious moth!
You have a weak electrochemical bond!
I have seen some disgusting crud in my time, but you take the cake! You're just...
This is what you do with your spare time.
Peter, this is an incredible breakthrough. I mean, what a discovery, a psychoreactive substance. Whatever this stuff is, it responds to human emotional states.
Mood slime.
Oh, baby.
Acoustic and vibrational physics have been proven to levitate objects and could explain how advanced ancient cultures managed to create such incredible megalithic structures. It could also explain how they managed to destroy them, as in the biblical story of Joshua and the 7 priests, who collapsed the walls of Jericho by using the sound vibrations of shouting and blowing into the ram's horn. The principle of polarity states that everything is dual in nature and has an opposite. Duality exists in everything. Opposites are identical in their nature but different in degree. For example, water is still water whether it is frozen or boiling. It is simply a matter of it having heat energy or a lack thereof. Night will follow day. Death will follow life. Good or evil, the conscious experience we call life cannot be fully expressed without the opposites that exist in reality. And this duality is necessary for our understanding of life. We will all have struggles and challenges during our time here on earth, because that is a symptom of the condition of living in duality. These opposites will provide the necessary friction for us to discover who we are. In order to exist at all, there will always be an opposite force working within the whole. The principle of rhythm states that all things rise and fall. Everything flows in and out. There is rhythm in everything. This is what gives the world a cyclical nature. The changing of the seasons, the rise and fall of the tides, the waxing and the waning of the moon, and the process of life and death are all examples of rhythm. Rhythm is the force that carries us through the polarity of degree. Life can be compared to a pendulum in the sense that it will always swing back with the same amount of force that pushed it forward. The sum of the action is directly proportional to the sum of the reaction. Rhythm is interwoven with the principle of polarity. Perhaps you have noticed that when you have extreme emotions, the equal and opposite emotion tends to emerge. Although this may be unwanted, this is the principle of rhythm at work. We can work to create a space of neutrality by simply being aware that we are aware. By doing so, we allow ourselves to not be pulled from one pole to the other in extreme degrees. If we are able to witness our negative emotions instead of feeding them by acting them out, they will be easier to deal with. In the same way, a boat will have an easier time rowing out to sea if it flows with the outgoing rhythm of the tide. Rhythm is a tendency. There will be times when more will is needed to move our consciousness forward. Other times, consciousness will flow in a positive direction more easily. This is the principle of rhythm in action.
It's interesting that as long as you identify with your personality, the things that get you uptight are your enemies. The minute you identify with your awareness, then the things that get you uptight show you where your awareness has still sticky fingers. Most of us, with your mind, because your mind deals with polarities, You feel that if you're happy, you're not sad. And you want to be happy. So you push away that which makes you sad. But if you are going to be free, there's nothing you can turn away from or turn off.
The principle of cause and effect states, every cause has an effect, and every effect has a cause. Some may have heard this principle described as karma, consequentialism, or causality. It all basically states that we reap what we sow, and we must be aware of the actions we take because they will manifest conditions. There is in fact free will, but it is impossible to perform an action without consequence. Nothing happens by accident or chance, and whether we experience something helpful or hurtful, we played a role in manifesting that condition. The effects of our actions do not always come directly after the cause. There is most often a period of time in between. Our thoughts, actions, emotions, words, and speech will manifest into reality. Everybody knows how they would not like to be treated. So consider the golden rule in the apophatic. Do not do unto others that which you would not want done unto yourself. Free will operates within the parameters of natural law. These laws can be broken, but not without negative consequence. Karma can also be accrued by inaction. If we are willing to let evil go unchecked, then just like the dominoes, what we set into motion or allow to stay in motion will topple over onto us. It all starts with choice. The plane of effect constitutes that which is, and no power to effect change lies here. It is in the past. It is that which was, and it is now that which is. If we are stuck in this plane, what we are doing is looking at the symptoms instead of the cause of our own self-inflicted suffering, by thinking that there is a political, monetary, scientific, or religious answer to all of our problems. The plane of causality is the mental realm. Again, all things must first exist in the mind. This is where causes are set into motion before manifesting as reality. This is the plane that constitutes the causal factors which underlie and precede all things and events. In order for humanity to co-create their shared reality on a conscious level, we must move to the plane of causality in order to understand the why of the conditions which we create.
Causality. Action, reaction. Cause and effect. Causality. There is no escape from it. We are forever slaves to it. Our only hope, our only peace is to understand it, to understand the why. Why is what separates us from them, you from me. Why is the only real source of power. Without it, you are powerless.
The principle of gender states that gender is in everything. Everything has a masculine and feminine principle. The word gender is derived from the Latin root meaning to beget, procreate, produce, or to generate. Therefore, the creation of all that exists comes from the masculine and feminine qualities. You cannot have one without the other. Gender is not the same as sex. Sex refers to the physical distinction between the two. What is being referred to here is mental gender, which is the state of coexistence between the masculine and feminine aspects of the human mind. The masculine aspect of the mind is action, logic, analytical, and linear thought. The feminine aspect is love, compassion, creativity, and holistic thought. When those energies are not in harmony with each other, the result is imbalance. Masculine without feminine results in domination, control, and aggression. Feminine without masculine results in naivety, submissiveness, and insecurity. When we see humanity as a whole, the manifestations of imbalance in our world corresponds to the imbalances taking place within ourselves. The final principle is the one that governs creation. It is the one which binds all of the other principles together. This final principle is care. This image is called the seed of life. It is the vessel inside which all of the other principles fit. It is called a seed because it generates something. The word generate is derivative of the Latin verb generare, which means to grow. A seed has an outer shell, and within that shell contains all of the creative essence necessary to bring forth life. If that shell is damaged, its creative essence will be destroyed. Care is the ultimate generator. The choice to care or not is what shapes us as individuals and as a society. Care is not what most people think of it as. It is different from both romantic love and compassion. Care is what you are giving your attention to in order to grow, and that which you are focusing on is what is being generated, and which in turn will begin to manifest. This does not mean to ignore anything in life which is negative, because by ignoring the negative, you are ensuring that more of it will occur. You will be generating ignorance. True care is what you are putting your energy into. It is what you are focusing on and what you care enough about to put your will behind to manifest into the world. Care is what generates our experience in the aggregate. And what we care about on a day-to-day basis acts as the driving force of our thoughts and actions. In order to create change, we must first care enough to acquire knowledge and then care enough to put it into action. Care, knowledge, action. It is the perfect union of the feminine and masculine principles. It is what unity consciousness is. Our cares and desires drive our actions. To make positive impact on the world, we must get on a path that encourages growth by questioning ourselves and many of the institutions we have been told to believe in. At this point, I would like to point out that I do not have all of this figured out. I'm a true human and my flaws and shortcomings are many. But I do care enough to share with you the most important knowledge that I have ever come across in the hope that it will benefit you as it has me. There are two spiritual currencies, and they can be very readily seen in the saying, spending time and paying attention. Our return in this investment could come in the form of knowledge, skill, understanding, expertise, or empowerment. What are you spending your time on? What are you paying attention to? What quality are you getting in return for your spiritual currency? Why is this important? The purpose of this presentation is to de-occult the knowledge of natural law. Because this knowledge has been hidden, major imbalances and polarizations between countries, sexes, races, and cultures have occurred. Our ignorance of these laws, which have been purposely hidden, result in chaos, both inwardly and outwardly. We can bring ourselves into illumination through a blend of analytical and holistic thought, a merging of the masculine and feminine energies. By and large, we have been taught by institutions that have suppressed this vital knowledge from us, but it is now available. There is a difference between nescience and willful ignorance. Nescience meaning information that is unknowable because it is absent or unavailable. But ignorance is choosing to ignore something. It should be pronounced as ignorance. We must look inward to ourselves, asking why we believe what we believe, and be humble enough to admit that we may be wrong, and that we may have been misled, and that we just might have bought a lie. The truth doesn't care about how you feel. It is indifferent and objective. Knowing the truth about something can be unpleasant, and it can trigger our ego. Beliefs are ideas made up to make sense of reality. They conform to our ego, and they are subjective. Many have been passed down to us through religion, schools, family, government, and society in general. Belief holds us back from seeing what is. It is in our power to step out of our comfort zones of belief. This will most certainly challenge and frighten our ego, but therein lies the ability to deepen our understanding of that which is. Truth is knowing the difference between right and wrong action. Knowing the difference between the two reveals the level of morality that we function in as a society. Ask anybody to define what a right is, and the answers you will get will be quite varied. A right is an action that does not cause harm to another sentient being. A sentient being is a being that is alive and conscious. A wrong action is any action that does cause harm to another sentient being. A wrong action can be summed up by one word: theft. All immoral actions are ultimately a form of theft against a being and their property. Murder is the theft of one's life. Assault is the theft of a person's right to remain unharmed in their person. Rape is the theft of a person's free will to choose whom they wish to sexually associate with. Lying is the theft of denying a person's right to know and understand that which is true. Trespass is the theft of a person's security within the surroundings of their own home and property. Coercion is the taking of one's free will that is not theirs to take. Free will is a gift from the Creator, and when someone coerces a person to perform a certain action under the threat of violence or harm to a person's well-being or property is a form of theft. And theft itself, the taking of one's physical property that does not belong to you. Knowing the difference between right and wrong action is the essence of natural law. Any action that does not cause harm to a living being or their property is a right. Many will say the 7 deadly sins are wrong actions, but they are not. They are definitely not advisable ways to conduct your behavior. But if you choose to be greedy, or angry, or lazy, or full of pride, then when the principles of natural law are applied, no wrong actions have occurred. Keeping in mind that these emotions can lead to action, as we previously discussed. But in and of themselves, no wrongdoing against another human being has occurred. Take prostitution, for example. Ask yourself if any form of the aforementioned thefts have occurred. If the answer is no, then it is not a wrong action. It is definitely not a good idea, but it's not a wrong action, contrary to what most of us have been taught to believe. If somebody hasn't been harmed, then no wrongdoing has been committed. No victim, no crime. However, jail cells are full of people who have never harmed another living being. Conversely, anyone that violates you or another living being and your property, no matter who it is violating natural law and is therefore wrong. The word right means 2 things simultaneously. This is because they are the same thing. It means both correct and moral. Correct is moral because it is in alignment with that which is true. 2 + 2 = 4. That is right. That's correct. That is true. You can ask yourself if it was right to take something which did not belong to you, meaning was it a moral behavior? Rights are most easily understood when considered through apophatic inquiry. This process helps us to understand what a right is by understanding what it is not. The word sovereignty comes from the Latin adverb suvere and the Latin word regnum, which translates to control or rulership. The word sovereignty fully translates into one who is above control or rulership. It is important for us to look at sovereignty from all angles and observe where we may be both inwardly and externally controlled. There are people who believe they have more rights than others and attempt to bend the rules of morality. Inner monarchy is our only choice to live in harmony with the world, ourselves, and each other, by doing no harm and taking the necessary action to protect ourselves, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Giving up these rights will allow someone else to come in and take that place, resulting in the loss of our individual responsibility of our most inherently natural state as spiritual beings in physical bodies, our sovereignty. Without inner monarchy, the result will be confusion and inner anarchy, which means no ruler and no master, which is a big problem. It will result in no self-mastery, no self-control, no self-discipline, and ultimately no self-love, which results in the understanding that we do not truly own ourselves. The absence of self-ownership is what we are seeing today as a species. We are operating on a very limited amount of our potential awareness. We believe that we are our labels, and that makes us a sitting target for the lies, manipulation, and programming of perception that comes from the media, Silicon Valley, government, education, and religious institutions. It is highly suggested to stay away from all forms of mainstream and corporate media, as it has nothing to do with reporting the news or the truth, but has everything to do with keeping us as a people, a society, and a country divided on everything, and influences us to become anything but united.
There's not a great deal of respect you can give to even some of the considered august bodies, some of the broadsheets. You know, the New York Times is now just a mouthpiece for the government, so is the Wall Street Journal. But the people would have to wake, first of all, they would have to wake up, the people, you Americans, would have to wake up to the fact that these newspapers and the rest of the media are not giving you the news.
Now, more on the latest building collapse in New York. You might have heard a few moments ago I was talking about the Salomon Brothers building collapsing, and indeed it has. Apparently that's only a few hundred yards away from where the World Trade Center towers were. And it seems that this was not a result of a new attack. It was because the building had been weakened during this morning's attacks. We'll probably find out more now about that from our correspondent, Jane Stanley. Jane, what more can you tell us about the Salomon Brothers building and its collapse?
Well, only really what you already know. Details are very, very sketchy. There's almost a sense downtown in New York behind me, down by the World Trade Centers, of just an area completely closed off as the rescue workers try to do their job. But this isn't the first building that has suffered as a result. We know that part of the Marriott Hotel next to the World Trade Center also collapsed as a result of this huge amount of falling debris from 110.
The BBC and other news corporations were reporting on the causes of the collapse before it actually happened.
The Trade Center appears to be still burning. We see these huge clouds of smoke and ash, and we know that behind that there's an empty piece of what was a very familiar New York skyline, a symbol of the financial prosperity of this city, but completely disappeared now, and New York is still unable to take on board what has happened to them today.
This programming and labeling keeps us in ego identification and makes us say things to ourselves like, I am a doctor, or I am a teacher, I'm a conservative, or I'm a liberal, I'm Italian, I'm Jewish, I'm black, I'm white, I'm gay, I'm straight, I'm a man, I'm a woman, and on and on. And God forbid if something goes wrong, then there goes my identity. The truth is that we are none of those things. Those things are only the experience that we are having. We cling to our ego identity, but we must remember what we truly are. We are pure, free, sovereign, and eternal. We are multidimensional, infinite consciousness that goes on forever and ever. And right now we are having a very brief experience called human. And if enough perception changes, then the world changes. The external expression of what happens in society at large when living out the natural law expressions of love, consciousness, knowledge, acceptance of truth, and sovereignty is order, freedom, and external anarchy. Let's take a look at the word anarchy. We have been led to believe that the word anarchy is synonymous with evil, chaos, violence, and lawlessness. It isn't.
We can't allow a situation like happened in Minneapolis to descend further into lawless anarchy and chaos.
You cannot go around saying you're a bad guy, we're going to assassinate you, and then you're going to have, if that happens, you're opening the door to international anarchy, that every government in the world will then be subjected to attacks and assassination.
The word anarchy derives from the Greek prefix an, which means without or the absence of, and the Greek noun archon, meaning master or ruler. Anarchy does not mean without rules or laws. We are forever bound to the principles of natural law, and these rules cannot be broken without negative consequence. If an innocent child got too close to the edge of a cliff and fell off, that child would fall to its death because the law of gravity is objective and doesn't care. Its laws are always in effect. Natural moral law is the same in the sense that its principles are immutable. Anarchy literally means without masters or rulers. Therefore, it would result in the absence of slavery, and there would also be no condition of masters and subordinates. Freedom for all sentient beings should be seen as the goal for spiritual development, and such a state can only be manifested as a result of human society's adherence to natural law, and it can only exist when those preceding conditions are in place. If not, the end result will be externally imposed control, fear, ignorance, confusion, and chaos. This is not my personal belief system, nor is it something that I developed or created, nor is it a religion. It is how laws operate in creation. It is a discovery and an understanding of the eternal truths that have existed forever and will echo throughout eternity. Ben Franklin did not invent electricity. His experiment allowed him to discover it. Just as all the great occult traditions and figures of the past did not invent natural law, but through seeking truth, self-discovery, and inner guidance, they were able to know and understand the laws of morality, nature, and behavioral consequence that have always been in place. And it is with humility and care that I put this important information forth for your consideration. It has been said that humanity's greatest fear is that there is only one truth. But the knowledge of truth is what the Christ figure himself proclaimed would be the pathway to true freedom. Governments all around the world consist of individuals who intentionally use violence and coercion to intimidate and control. It is the epitome of wrong action within our world. It is praised by so many, but it is the most dangerous superstition. An ever-looming threat of either violence or imprisonment looms over human beings who do not comply with state demands. The choice to do what we want with our bodies and our life has been revoked and penalized. Yet when we use defensive force against someone who works for the government and initiates violence against us, it is seen as a major crime.
Are these raids being conducted lawfully? Or was there a crime that actually happened? The only crime that happened was a violation of the Fourth Amendment by the Killeen Police Department.
Justice delayed is justice denied. And if they wanted to execute him, then let's have a trial and let him tell his story and let citizens of Bell County make that decision. And then everyone's got closure, like it or not. And that's the failure in this, that it's sitting out there. It's not right.
I think there hasn't been a trial in Marvin's case yet because there's information that will make the city of Killeen or Bell County, Texas look bad. If you are so right, if you've got the winning case, what are you afraid of?
Many despise government and all of the corruption that lies within, yet cannot perceive of a world of order without it. This is because so many have come to depend on the false sense of security that government promises, especially in times of crisis and financial instability. If I'm to be honest with myself, I have to come to the realization that I am guilty of this very thing. By accepting any sort of government financial assistance, I was complicit in supporting a system of theft and violence. As mentioned before, we must take a look at ourselves to understand how we may be adding to the problem, and be courageous enough to challenge our own system of belief. Easier said than done, but the change we seek begins with us and will allow us to take back our power.
Is it my imagination? Is it too much to suggest that their leaders over there and our leaders in the West are driven not by trying to achieve peace in our time, but by something else, by something altogether less sublime? Call me a cynic, but it sometimes seems to me that some of them are more attached to power than to peace.
Everybody seems to know and agree that the ancient Roman Empire was full of conspiracies. We are basically living in the modern-day equivalent of the Roman Empire. We even call New York the Empire State. However, in modern times, any mention of conspiracies are immediately dismissed as absurd. And as mentioned in the beginning, there is nothing new under the sun.
You know, they tried to make it so that the belief in the conspiracy makes you somehow outside the norm, that you're a kook, that you're a conspiracy buff. Do I believe in conspiracies? Nah. Do I believe powerful people would get together and plan for certain outcomes? Nah. Do I believe powerful interests would operate outside the law and maybe even kill people? Nah. Do I believe secret government agencies might feel the need to assassinate a person and cover it up? Nah. I think everything in America is open and clean and above board, and powerful people always play by the rules.
And I'm glad they're against the law. Because you know what happened when I took them? I laid in a field of green grass for 4 hours going, my God, I love everything. The heavens parted, God looked down and rained gifts of forgiveness onto my being, healing me on every level, psychically, physically, emotionally. And I realized our true nature is spirit, not body, that we are eternal beings, and God's love is unconditional, and there's nothing we can ever do to change that. It is only our illusion that we are separate from God or that we are alone. In fact, the reality is we are one with God, and He loves us. Now, if that isn't a hazard to this country, you see my point. How are we going to keep building nuclear weapons? You know what I mean? What's going to happen to the arms industry when we realize we're all one? It's going to fuck up the economy. The economy that's fake anyway. Which would be a real bummer, you know. You can see why the government's cracking down on the idea of experiencing unconditional love.
If you're asking the question, who will take care of the bad guys? The most simple answer is that natural law will always take care of the consequences for those who violate the rights of others. However, since arrest and prison is a more immediate way of penalizing wrong action, we are left to wonder how safe of a world it would be to let these individuals roam free. This is why it is the responsibility of every individual to keep themselves safe and to have proper tools to do so. Whether that be learning how to use a weapon or self-defense practices such as martial arts or non-lethal methods in order to stop an aggressor looking to do you bodily harm. Knowing full well that natural law is at constant work and nothing goes unchecked. Although the consequences may not come immediately, know that they do in fact come. We reap what we sow. We are always manifesting our reality even if we are not aware of what we are manifesting into our lives. This is why it is of critical importance to be aware of ourselves as a whole. What we manifest into our lives can come from an unintentional place. It can be rooted in repressed trauma or an unhealed wound. We each carry the deep responsibility to alchemize the pain and struggle that we experience in our lives, and not allow it to become a shadow that we project onto others and into the world. When we desire to hurt someone either physically or with words, it is a direct result of not looking at our shadow self. When we fail to look at or ignore the unhealed or dark parts of our nature, we can never expect to heal it and make positive change. And the outcome of that neglect always leads to less freedom and more enslavement. In the occult tradition of alchemy, there are 3 phases of alchemical transmutation. These transmutations are taught through allegories in order to reveal a hidden meaning, typically a moral lesson. In alchemy, you're dealing with the transmutation of metals from one form into another, lead into gold, for example. But they are not really talking about metals. They are referring to qualities of human consciousness. The alchemist seeks to remove from his thoughts, emotions, and actions all of their imperfections. In the same way he would remove base metals, in this case, base consciousness, in order to produce gold. Or in this case, gold would represent unity consciousness, or alignment with natural law. The first alchemical phase is nigredo. It is representative of imperfections, bad information, programming, and beliefs. It is also an inaccurate understanding of how nature and how natural law works. So it is the step of getting rid of those impurities and to take them away from ourselves. The second phase is albedo. This represents the awakening process when we see that the world is not what we thought it was, and we begin to develop a desire for more than the base things in life, a desire to know truth, and a desire to reach higher realms of consciousness, and the desire to better ourselves. The third phase is rubedo. It represents purified or enlightened consciousness, the transmutation into gold or unity consciousness. It's the elemental fire, or the philosopher's stone, which is symbolized by a red elixir or a red stone, and it represents the unification of man with God and the knowledge of truth. Another very misunderstood occult tradition, and one that I have had long fascination with, is that of Freemasonry. True esoteric Freemasonry is considered by its true esoteric adherents as a system of morality which is veiled in allegory and illustrated by symbols. The first 3 degrees of Freemasonry are entered apprentice, fellowcraft, and master mason, which represents the 3 aspects of unity consciousness: thought, emotion, and action. The symbol of Freemasonry has several esoteric meanings. The square in the symbol represents base consciousness, or physical world identification. The compass represents higher knowledge, compassion, and true intelligence through the balance of unity consciousness. The G in the middle has been the subject of debate among many. Some say it means God. Some say it's geometry or gnosis. But what the G represents in its true esoteric sense is the sacred feminine generative principle of care. Because for any positive manifestation to occur, one must first generate or create care. A very beautiful symbol when properly understood. Resurrection is an important theme in the Masonic tradition, ultimately embodied by the Masonic Christ figure known as Hiram Abiff. The legend of Hiram Abiff, also known as the Master Builder, is an allegory about knowing the self, becoming the builder of a better mind and soul, and ultimately the resurrection of morality within a human being.
That's my house.
You mean the whole house?
Yes,
My God, it's a mansion.
it's a house.
I live in a 1-bedroom apartment. What exactly does your husband do?
He's a plumber.
Well, that explains that. Temperature's dropping. I guess you can't invite me in.
No.
People home.
No, I think the house is empty. I can't invite you in because I'm married. Because I know who I am. Because I know who I am.
There are many similarities between Hiram Abiff and Jesus Christ. Hiram Abiff was a master builder, contracted by King Solomon to build his temple. Jesus was also known as a skilled carpenter. Hiram was known as the widow's son. Jesus was raised by his mother. There is seldom mention of his foster father after his birth. Hiram was assaulted and killed by 3 ruffians. known as Jubilem, Jubilo, and Jubila. He was killed because he would not reveal the real name of God or the secret of the master masons. Jesus was ultimately put to death by Pilate, the Sanhedrin, and the mob, and both were resurrected from the dead. They are both stories of integrity and virtue. And in fact, many of the esoteric traditions have similar allegorical figures with similar stories. Hiram Abiff, Jesus Christ, Osiris, Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth, Mercury, Narada, Christian Rosencreutz, and no matter what the tradition is, whether it's shamanism, Hermeticism, Vedas, Rosicrucianism, Kabbalah, Freemasonry, or the Kemetic or Egyptian traditions, they are all systems of teaching natural law in its pure form. Another common theme in the ancient traditions is that of the triune gods: Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Osiris, Isis, Horus, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and many others, all representing the principles of natural law, purity of thoughts, emotions, and actions, and the mind-body-spirit connection. The Zen master warns, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Killing the Buddha on the road to enlightenment means destroying the hope that anything outside of yourself can be your master. We are here to come to the understanding that we are our own savior and healer. You yourself are the guru that you have been looking for. As the Bible states, the kingdom of God lies within. Every day we have a chance to align ourselves with natural law and remember who we really are. Multidimensional, infinite consciousness, having a brief but very important experience. We are here for a reason, and that's to figure it out for ourselves. There are only two mistakes one can make on the road to truth: not getting started and not going all the way.